I don't know. It's too much Yuri Bezmenov. Hello. It's my fake Russian accent. Or Ukrainian? Oh. Never mind. So, someone had said, I forgot about that. Oh well. Someone had said something to the effect of, at the end of the day, our choice in IDE, in text editor and language, come mainly down to preference. And I was like, kinda no, actually, because, well, no, I shouldn't say that. I have to keep this in mind. So I have a Subaru car, and when I first bought a Subaru car, I was like, I wrote a blog post about this, about how I wasn't sure why people didn't get Subarus, because whenever you talked about Subarus, people were like, oh yeah, super long-lasting, reliable car, really great. Like, cool, why don't you have a Subaru? I don't know. It's like, okay, well, what do you think about a Subaru? Oh, it's a great car, lasts a long time. My dad had one, 300,000 miles on it, amazing, long-lasting car. It's like, cool, why don't you have one? I don't know. And there was never really an explanation, and I didn't have an explanation until maybe a couple of years ago, when I had been thinking about it, and I realized that it really is preference, and what I am is not normal. Is someone who, a very, very pure utilitarian, because the purpose of this car is not to bring me joy by looking at it. And maybe if I had like 3 cars, maybe the third one would be just a fun car. But the purpose of this single car is to drive us around, safely and comfortably and in a long-lasting manner for our investment in the vehicle. Like that's what I want it to be. Now, other people have different priorities. They want a car that makes them look cool first. And then after that, does it run? Is it reliable? Is it good, easy to keep maintenance on? And this is something that reflects your priorities and your focus. Is what you place the most value on. Because if you were to receive as a prize or a gift or something like that a Lamborghini, you'd be like, oh, this is great, I can drive a Lamborghini, this is amazing, it's a supercar. And then you could use that Lamborghini to drive to work at 35 miles an hour. I'm going 25 miles an hour. Or you're in Southern California traffic, and you're just like, that's more frustrating than enjoyable, I guess. I don't know. It would be to me. I guess other people might have different opinions about that. But these are all things that reflect our values for the things that we're using, the decisions we make, the market choices that we make, the product choices that we make. And indeed, I thought about this a little bit ago. You don't, in the society where we're not really allowed to let our opinions be known, to wear our politics on our sleeve, which is something that is somewhat recent, technically, in the last several decades, I guess last 50 years, maybe longer, where in America, at least, if you're talking about politics, you're looking to start a fight. You're trying to start a fight. And that's a shame. And if you aren't actually trying to start a fight, the other person is very likely to think that you're trying to start a fight. So we make our brand selections in order to, yes, for some values, virtue signal, to signal what our virtue is, and the things that are important to us. They found that in selling hybrid cars and electric cars, when they made hybrid cars and electric cars that were that looked normal, that looked like their other vehicles on their lineup, people didn't buy them as much. They wanted the car to look different. They wanted to stand out. They wanted people to notice them. and this is, I believe I thought about this about the Tesla people, because there was like a Tesla dating app or something like that. It was like Tesla owners dating app. It's like, okay, and the response to it was, clearly this is not a cult. Yes, right. It's like, well, if you buy a Tesla, you are expressing to the world, these are my values, these are my beliefs. And if someone else buys a Tesla, they're essentially doing the same thing. There are probably other people who have those same beliefs that don't have Teslas, but it is quite obvious. You know, you're pulling from a sample set that includes those people. So technically, it's like a right-wing dating app or a left-wing dating app, or some sections of the political spectrum dating app, some quadrants of the political, what is it called? Political compass. You're just selecting for people who are much more likely to have the same values that you do. So you are essentially, with your brand purchases, expressing the things that are of value to you. And you do this by, you know, advertising with yourself, by wearing shirts that have logos and express values of, yes, even companies that express the same values. Tesla is not a pro-coal company. It is a pro-electric car company. It's a technology firm. It's, you know, forward-thinking and futuristic and all that stuff. So all of these things are things that are bottled up in the purchase of the product. And indeed, you are purchasing the product, and in order to express those beliefs safely and comfortably, you can purchase the product. But you get along just as well wearing a t-shirt that says Tesla owner on it, or Tesla, I heart Tesla or something. You probably need the logo because there's an actual guy named Tesla. I don't know if you knew this. I might never get over that. Just the light changes and people don't honk. They just wait. It's great. I love it. I was at a job, and there were some folks up from Tennessee into Kentucky, and we were driving to lunch from the job site, and we were talking about how the people in Kentucky drive different. And right on cue, the light turned green, and the car in front of us just sat there. And it probably sat there about 15 seconds, which is technically a long time, you know, 1, 2, 3. And the Tennessean from behind us in the car said, "We'll just let her finish that text message." We all busted up laughing. It was an excellent example, and no one honks. You know, we're not. It's not impatient here. It's respectful or something. So these brand decisions and brand loyalties are clearly an extension of our political beliefs and philosophical beliefs, which is kind of tough to admit. I don't think it's a effective or appropriate way to express those beliefs, but it is a way that people do it. There are people who buy hybrids for purely utilitarian reasons. You know, you see the electric car or hybrid car, or even Prius that has a bunch of right-wing stickers stuck on the back so that no one confuses it for being driven by someone on the left. But that's exactly the same. It's like a counter-virtue signal. I don't know. The right seems to have a problem with conflict and just trying to poke and prod and bother the other side, much to its own detriment. Anyways, so some of these things express our belief systems, but some of these do not. So driving the car around, if you get, 20% more efficiency, you're probably willing to spend a little bit more to maintain a car that keeps you going around, but you look cool doing it. These are the trade-offs that you get. And you make the exact same decisions within your text editors. Your text editor and the language probably that you choose. This is kind of this kind of assumes that you're actually not purely brand loyal to your text editor for the reason of just being brand loyal. Just because you've always done it doesn't mean you always should use it. There's all kinds of nonsense about Python these days. People are just like, I can use Python to do everything. Like, yeah, I guess, but you shouldn't. Just learn new languages, man. Learn the strengths, learn the weaknesses, adjust, adapt. Makes you a better programmer all around. But the comment, if I recall correctly, was specifically about Lisps. I said if someone, chooses to use a Lisp or not a Lisp, or chooses their language or their IDE, it's mainly just preference. And I don't think that's true. It's probably 70% utility, 30% preference. But the fact of the matter is, changing the logical structures that you're able to work with in a programming language also changes the logical structures that you're capable of keeping track of in your brain. Because you're orienting, you're building architecture, you're moving data sets around, and you're trying to figure out how they can, how the Lego pieces all fit together in your head. And if you're not able to conceptualize those Lego pieces, you're not going to be able to do anything. You might need a whiteboard, or you might need to work up a framework, and build off of that. Test and build and adjust and tweak, so that the architecture gets built piece by piece within the code that you're working on, rather than building the architecture and the layout and the design conceptually in your head and then putting it on paper, essentially, or code. So, assuming you have the ability to use the language, to grok the language, and to process the data structures and types inside your head, I still think there's very real benefits to specific languages, and I think that's very clearly true. Languages are specifically designed. Even Python was designed to fill a niche, a gap in the market, where he was just getting sick of a lot of the problems. And said, well, we're going to do it this way. I'll just make my own language then. So when you look at things like Lisps, you're talking about changing severely the way that you think about a lot of the data structures that exist within programming and exist within the memory space or the namespace you're working in. So I think that there are, it is structure, it is mental capacity, but there's also an element of preference in there, a small one, that if you are good at thinking this way, or if you have always thought this way, then, and this language kind of fits that particular way, well, then you're just going to have an easier time. Oh, this language is easy. I get this language. No problem. But I don't think you get to say that about things like homoiconicity or other somewhat confusing. The recursion example is a pretty good one because it's so different, but it has a very functional application in that functional. It's a very utilitarian application in that it creates less surface area, and that's not arguable. That's not negotiable. You can't say, there's also less syntax all around. You're not going to be sitting there saying, oh, well, is that a curly brace, or is that a square brace, or is that a parenthesis? It's always a parenthesis, always. And you don't get to, there are very real benefits to Lisps. If you can grok them, if you can wrap your head around them, if you can think about them, if you can conceptualize them in your head and hold the structures in your head, they're very serious, very direct benefits that you get. And that extends to IDEs that incorporate Lisps or do not. So, no, it is, well, can't say categorically, but, 70-30. 30% preference, 70% how you think. If you think this way, then this language fits well with the way that you think. And if you're willing or capable to change the way that you think to fit the programming language and say, is this better? Does this allow me to get more work done? Then you can say, you know, do I drive a Subaru? Am I purely utilitarian? Do I want to look cool while I'm programming? There's so many other questions, but frankly, you know, to me, none of this matters anywhere nearly as much as the concept of simply getting the work done. Because if you can't get the work done, I don't know what it is you expect to be able to do. Still not working. It's about the work. It always has been. It always will be. Yes, you will have some personal satisfaction from working with the thing that you're working with. You know, driving the Ferrari does feel cool. But every time you need an oil change, you need a special super synthetic, you know, $800 oil change. Like, oh, I need new tires for my Ferrari. Like, oh, okay, well, I've had them for about 3 weeks. Do they really go through that fast? Oh, yeah, they're super fast racing tires. Okay. How much do they cost? It's about $1,000. Like, wow, that's pretty expensive. A tire. $1,000 per tire. $4,000 per tire change. Like, these are all the added expenses and stuff that come along with, you know, looking cool. You sacrifice. You know, there's always trade-offs. There's always trade-offs.